Ayo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm super hyped to have you here for another brand new video. If you've been following along, then you already know what time it is. It's time for another epic episode in my Planet Coaster 2 series. Whether you're a long-time subscriber or just stumbled across this video, I hope you enjoy the content I've been putting out and that you're vibing with the AI voiceover I've been using to narrate these documentary-style build videos. It's been a fun way to bring the creative process to life and give you a behind-the-scenes look at how these coasters come together. Today's video is something truly special. This isn't just another episode, it's one of the most ambitious, time-consuming, and creatively challenging videos I've ever made. Not just in this series, but on my entire channel. That's right, this video is officially the longest one I've ever uploaded, clocking in at a full 5 minutes longer than any of my previous uploads, especially those early ones when I was just getting started. So buckle up, grab a snack, and get ready for a deep dive into the making of a B&M Giga coaster that pushed my skills and patience to the limit. Before we dive into the technical stuff, let me give you a little background on the vision for this coaster. I wanted to create something that felt massive, powerful, and unforgettable. A ride that would dominate the skyline of the park and leave guests breathless. I've always been fascinated by Giga coasters, those towering steel giants that reach heights of 300 feet or more, and I knew I wanted to bring that same energy into Planet Coaster 2. But I didn't want to just copy a real-world coaster. I wanted to take inspiration from the best and then push it further. I wanted to create something that felt familiar yet fresh, thrilling yet smooth, intense yet elegant. That's the balance I was aiming for with this build. Now, if you've been keeping up with the series, you might have already seen the lift hill in a previous video. That's right, I gave you a little teaser of what was coming. So you already know that the lift hill is done and dusted, and in this video, we're picking up right after the drop. That's where the real fun, and the real struggle, begins. The drop itself is massive. I spent a lot of time getting the angle just right. I wanted it to feel steep and intimidating, but not so extreme that it broke the realism. I also had to think about how the drop would transition into the first element. That's where the airtime hill comes in. Let's talk about that first major element after the drop, the airtime hill. Oh man, this part of the build was a serious test of patience. I'm not even exaggerating when I say it took me days, literal days, to get this one element just right. I tried so many variations, tweaking the height, the curvature, the banking, the transitions, everything. It was one of those moments where you think, okay, I'll just fix this one little thing, and then suddenly it's 3 hours later and you're still not happy with it. What made it even more frustrating is that other elements in the coaster, some of which are just as complex, only took me a few hours to complete. But this airtime hill, it was a different beast entirely. I wanted it to feel just right, to give that perfect moment of weightlessness, and to flow seamlessly into the next part of the ride. And that level of precision takes time. I even went back and watched POVs of real B&M Giga coasters like Fury 325 and Leviathan just to study how they shaped their airtime hills. I paid attention to the pacing, the transitions, the way the train crests the hill and dives back down. I wanted to capture that same feeling in my build. After finally getting the airtime hill to a place I was happy with, I moved on to the second element. This one was inspired by real-life B&M coasters, but I wanted to put my own spin on it. The idea was to create a unique transition that combined a left-hand turn with a gradual descent, almost like a hybrid between a bank turn and a low airtime hill. This element took nearly an hour to figure out. I spent a lot of time experimenting with the height, the angle of the banking, and how it would interact with the surrounding terrain and track layout. I even did some research, looked up reference videos and images of similar elements on real Giga coasters, just to get a better sense of how it should look and feel. I wanted to know, should it bank left immediately, or should it rise up like an airtime hill and then twist into the turn? These are the kinds of decisions that can make or break the flow of a coaster. Now, one thing you might notice while watching the build footage is that I've got the supports turned off during most of the track placement. That's intentional. I've started doing this more often because it helps me focus entirely on the track itself, especially the banking and transitions, without the visual clutter of the supports getting in the way. It's a small change, but it makes a big difference in how smooth and polished the final ride feels. Normally, I wait until the entire track is complete before I start smoothing things out. But for this build, I made an exception. I wanted to make sure each element was as clean and refined as possible before moving on to the next. That meant doing some early smoothing and adjustments, especially on those tricky banked sections. Once the second element was locked in, I moved on to the next sequence. Another airtime hill, this time with a twist, literally. It starts with a left bank and then transitions into a right-hand turn, leading into a new element that mirrors the first airtime hill but with a slightly different elevation and angle. This creates a nice sense of rhythm and variation while still maintaining that signature B&M flow. From there, I added a low to the ground left turn that leads into a lift hill style element, positioned just before the mid-course brake run. This section is located close to the original drop, creating a cool visual overlap that adds to the ride's intensity and layout complexity. Now here's something cool. Right as I was finishing up this section of the ride, Frontier dropped a new update that added on-ride camera features. Perfect timing, right? I didn't get a chance to fully implement it in this video, but don't worry, I'll be showing off the camera placement and photo feature in the next episode. It's going to add a whole new layer of realism and fun to the ride experience. After the mid-course brake run, I started working on the final sequence of the coaster. This includes a series of back-to-back turns and transitions that gradually lead into the final brake run. It's a satisfying conclusion to the ride, and I'm happy to report that the final stats are mostly green across the board, smooth, thrilling, and well-paced. I also went back and made some final adjustments to a few elements that didn't feel quite right. A little smoothing here, a little banking tweak there, it's all part of the process. With the track complete, it was time to shift gears and focus on the station and surrounding infrastructure. I started by building the switch track and the exit shop, then moved on to the station itself. For the theme, I decided to go with a Viking meets castle aesthetic, something bold and dramatic to match the intensity of the coaster. The station features a unique roof design that sets it apart from the other coaster stations in the park. The support pillars are painted black, while the roof panels are a deep, dark red that matches the track color. It's one of my favorite station designs so far, and I really tried to push myself creatively to make it stand out. While I was working on the station, I started thinking ahead to my next big project. I've got some exciting ideas brewing for a brand new park, this time with a Wild Western theme. I'm talking dusty trails, saloons, wooden coasters, and even a full-blown water park section. It's going to be a massive undertaking, but I'm already hyped to get started once this current park is finished. Back to the current build, I also spent some time fleshing out the exit area. I created custom fencing that wraps around the path and even goes underneath the station, adding a nice sense of depth and realism. I also added a maintenance area directly beneath the ride, complete with a staff-only door that leads to the power generators. It's a small detail, but it adds to the immersion and makes the park feel more alive. Next up was the queue. I found a set of stairs that fit perfectly with the ride's theme and layout, and I knew right away they were the right choice. I painted the path to match the coaster's color scheme and started working on the on-ride photo area and the coaster shop. Building the shop was actually a lot of fun, and while I still want to add more detail to the structure, I'm definitely getting better at this part of the game. Practice makes perfect, right? As we neared the end of the build, it was time to give the coaster its name. After thinking it over, I decided to go with something bold, powerful, and a little bit dark: Lucifer. The name evokes a sense of danger and intensity, which fits perfectly with the ride's theme and layout. I imagined it as a warrior-like figure, a devilish force of nature that dominates the landscape. To tie it all together, I added some red-painted rocks and bushes around the ride area, reinforcing the fiery, infernal theme. It's a small touch, but it really helps sell the atmosphere. I really like making these videos, and they're so much fun to make and takes a lot of time to edit. And that's a wrap on this episode. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the entire build process, from the first drop to the final brake run, and everything in between. If you've been listening to my AI voiceover buddy narrate the video, I hope it added a fun and informative layer to the experience. The park is almost complete, and I can't wait to show you the final results in the upcoming episodes. Whether it's Planet Coaster 2, Fortnite, or any of the other games I'm planning to play, I'm so grateful to have you along for the ride. Let's try to hit 50 subscribers by the end of the year. If you're enjoying the content, please consider sharing the channel with your friends. The more we grow, the more awesome content I can bring your way. I've also started downloading new games on my PC, so expect a wider variety of videos coming soon. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, take care, stay creative, and goodbye for now.